Still in Queensland with MP Keith Pitt live from Bundaberg. Keith, thank you for your time. Now we've got the Labor Party touring Queensland to get in touch with voters there, find out what went wrong at the election. Do you think they're going to have any luck on their coal proposition? Now Anthony Albanese said he supports coal exports.
Well, I think Mr Albanese's main problem is the people of Queensland simply won't believe him. I don't think they'll believe that his lifelong and long-term held beliefs have changed. That the leopard has changed its spots. I mean, in Queensland they tend to be fairly recalcitrant at times, and we certainly stand up for our people in our sector, and they're entitled to the jobs that they have. So I think it's highly unlikely they'll follow Mr Albanese as the Pied Piper simply because he runs the coal flag up the pole.
We have seen Queensland, though, in the past has been quite, you could say volatile, but certainly fickle in voting. It hasn't ever been a dedicated Labor or Liberal state. You can see that at a state government level as well. Surely, if they have this message now and consistently run it until the election, they will manage to win over a lot of voters.
Well, as I said, it's a matter of whether the people of Queensland actually believe Mr Albanese. He has held these positions for his entire life. I don't think that there's anyone out there that will be fooled into believing that he's now magically had an epiphany simply because they lost the election. Coal is an important part of what we do in Queensland as a resource state. It employs many people. I mean, across the country, it's more than 200,000 individuals employed in the resources sector. The Coalition has stood strong and stood firm with the resources sector. It's an important part of what we do, and it's an important part of our economy. And those individuals are proud of what they deliver. I mean, it is them and the royalties from their industry that pay for roads and hospitals in this state, and they all know it.
The Labor leader Anthony Albanese has said that the Coalition's tactics on coal have been childish. Do you agree?
Well, look, I'll let the Leader of the Opposition make his own commentary. I mean, we were very firm on our position. We support the resources sector. We've said that consistently all the way through the time that I've been in government, certainly since 2013. That position hasn't changed. But we know that Mr Albanese and before him Mr Shorten would say one thing in Melbourne and something different when they're in Barcaldine. So people won't be fooled. They know immediately when someone says something different in a different state, and I think that's exactly what happened in the last election.
It's something that really was exploited by the Greens, though, because it's not dissimilar to what we see between the Nationals and the Liberals. You don't see many Victorian MPs standing up and brandishing lumps of coal, saying it's the future of our economy. They're much more strongly advocating for renewable energy and for investment in that sector. So is this something that also still exists within the Liberal Party, a divide over this?
Well, I'm technology agnostic, as I've said many times. In terms of generating electricity in this country, I support things that work and the ones that are the most cost effective. And of course, across the nation, there is always going to be different views. But we support things that help build our economy, that deliver jobs, and the resources sector has done that for a very long time. I think it's been well managed. We have some of the strictest environmental requirements in the world. So, it is difficult to get some of those proposals up. Now, we've seen Adani finally get through all those hurdles, and they are now delivering jobs in central Queensland, just as many of us said they would.
When we are talking about coal, it's hard to separate it from the bushfires happening at the moment, the calls from many groups that say it's linked to climate change, and that's why we're seeing worse fires earlier now. Do you agree that the bushfire season this year has been impacted by climate change?
Well, the bushfire season is early because it's very, very dry. And there's an awful lot of fuel because in Queensland in particular, the Labor state government hasn't done hazard reduction burning to the levels that have been done previously. If you have an increase in fuel, you have a dry environment, there's no rain, and you get ignition sources where you get very large bushfires. That is just what happens. We've been through this before. I'm sure we'll go through it again. I once again want to congratulate everybody that's out on the front line fighting these fires right across the country. They're very brave individuals. And certainly we need to do more around preparation. That means bigger fire breaks, it means more clearing, it means a better protection of life and property, and we need the state governments to get on board.
So when you say it's drier than it has been, though, do you think that's been impacted by climate change?
Well, we're in a drought, Annalise. This is what happens when it doesn't rain. This is pretty much a fundamental of living in Australia. And in Queensland, we see these sorts of natural disasters, whether it's cyclone, whether it's flood, whether it's fire. They've happened before. Unfortunately, they'll happen again. But what matters is how we prepare, what level of resilience we have in our community, what decisions are made at a local and state government level in terms of planning and where people are allowed to build houses and how much clearing they can do around those structures in order to protect their properties from these disasters.
And so you don't think it's drier because of climate change?
Well, I think the climate's always changed. Do I think it's drier now because we're in a drought? Well, of course I do. But in 2013 we had a record flood in Bundaberg. So the climate has always been variable. It will continue to be variable into the future. What we need to do is ensure that we build further resilience. So for drought, that means more dams, more water reliability. For fire, that means better fire breaks, better protection, more hazard reduction burning. And for floods, well, that comes down to planning.
And just finally, there's been an inquiry announced into Bundaberg's Paradise Dam. What are you hoping comes out of this inquiry?
Well, we had to drag the state Labor government kicking and screaming to the table simply to release some of the reports. Now, that happened last week. I'm very concerned about the peer review report from a US company, which effectively says that they are not convinced that the core samples taken are completely accurate. They've suggested that there needs to be more. What really worries me is that the Queensland state government will start to knock this dam down before they confirm that data and that analysis. And once that happens, it won't be recovered. So their proposition at the moment, Annalise, is to spend up to $180 million to knock the dam down and provide less water and less water security for our growers. I think that's wrong. We're doing everything we can to ensure, firstly, that the dam is safe, but secondly, that it is either repaired, restored or replaced.
Keith Pitt, thank you for your time.
Hey, it's great to be with you.